we were really very, very disappointed. From all those makerspaces, we found basically only one or two that had tools and where people were actually doing something.
So naturally, because you were making the LEDs and you realized there's a need for a place for people to come to Shenzhen to build stuff. That's why you started Troublemaker, right?
Not a troublemaker because, let's say, after my last, let's say, failure in startup,
The LEDs?
I was bankrupt.
Oh.
No, it was I made a French fries vending machine in 2015 in Holland, and the machine is there. And I had 3 partners, and eventually, after I was there for 9 months, we had a working prototype, and I went back and I had spent all my money. I had to borrow $500 to be able to pay my rent in Shenzhen when I came back. So I was really bankrupt. And then my co-founders told me that I didn't perform well and that they will go on without me. Well, I was the only one who actually built the machine together with one other guy. So I realized the product, but like I said, if you have partners which if you choose the wrong partners, then there is no future in that. So in the end, they have tried it with a French fries machine until about 6 months ago. And so they've tried it for 4 years and they failed as well. And they have worked with one of the biggest engineering companies in Holland to try to realize that, and they were not able.
But you made it. So, how could they do that?
I think there is a big difference between a working prototype, a functioning prototype, but actually you can put it there. But let's say what works fine 90% of the time, and you still need to fine tune it. And also taking some other things into account. We did a lot of on the area of food hygiene and serviceability, but and one, I think, I don't know if that actually had something to do with it, but we worked with a Chinese partner who did a model before we did it, and he developed the software behind it. And the team in Holland always said, well, this is very easy. We can program this very easy ourselves. And our Chinese partner always said, well, I've spent years in fine tuning this and hundreds of thousands of kilograms of potatoes to fine tune it. And it's not easy, I can tell you. Maybe that's also something, because I don't know what they failed on exactly, but it could be any of those. But the point is not so much that. The point is, like, I came back in China. I had 2 children, 2 babies who are 10 months old in that time. So I hadn't seen them through the first part of their life. I didn't have any dime left over. I had to borrow money to pay my rent. And I needed to create an income for myself again. So I had to, again, start from scratch. And first, I did the same what I knew, just offer myself as a consultant for LED display, and immediately got a customer. So that paid the bills. But I thought, I should have my own product in the market. I should not always depend on consulting clients, because whenever somebody stops, then your income is gone. And if you have a hardware product in the market and it's successful, then you have a stable income. So I wanted to develop a product, and that was actually a video doorbell. I had an idea how to disrupt that product, very different than the models what you find on the market now. And I didn't have the knowledge to do that, so I needed people around me who could help me, let's say, advise me how to use a 3D printer. I could make a design in SketchUp or something, a free software, but I still needed to print it, so I needed to learn that, or maybe CNC something. And I needed help from someone who was able to program an Android PCB to let it do something what I want, to basically create the firmware of my solution. Those are things what I didn't know, and I wanted to learn because I've always done things by myself. So I wanted to learn, and I thought, well, what's a better place than a makerspace? Because there are people who know how to operate a 3D printer and a CNC machine, and there are people who can code. So and they are social, they help each other. So they're probably willing to help me realize this. Maybe I can even find some partners. So the idea was to join a makerspace. And then I met a guy on an event. It was called a Robotics and AI Mixer. And he knew a lot about makerspaces. So I asked him if he would mind to show me around all those makerspaces, so I can make up my mind which one I like best and which one I want to join. And he said, well, that's a really good idea. In the past, I used to do tours through makerspaces. Maybe it's time to do that again. So he organized tours, and every Wednesday we went with about 20 people to 2 or 3 makerspaces in Shenzhen, and then ended up at a coffee bar having a beer or whatever. And we did that for 6 weeks or something. We visited around 25 makerspaces, and we were really very, very disappointed. From all those makerspaces, we found basically only 1 or 2 that had tools and where people were actually doing something. All the other makerspaces, they don't have a laboratory, they don't have tools, they don't have machines, they don't have people cooperating with each other. So that's, in our perception, that's not a makerspace, that's a co-work space. Now, if you understand what the policy of the Chinese government was in that time with the government grants for building makerspaces, then you understand that a lot of people who own real estate opened a makerspace to get a big government grant, and they had no idea what a makerspace was, so they turned it into a co-work space. So now I understand it, but at that time, I was just faced with the reality that I could maybe go to Chai Ho, or I go to Shenzhen Open Innovation Lab, and that was about it at the time. There were some makerspaces like Fab Labs, but they are too far away, like Longgang, things like that. And also there was absolutely nobody. So there were the tools, but there was 0 people in the space. There was just no community. So we came to this situation like, we want to have a makerspace. He also wanted that. And but we want to have a makerspace where people are actually busy, where there is a community, where people are doing things and helping each other. And we said, well, Chai Ho is good. I think Chai Ho was the best. And Chai Ho is actually kind of what we consider like a real makerspace in the West, because I mean, they were doing things, a lot of things actually in a non-commercial attitude. So I saw like a big rocket ship made out of cardboard with cotton wool smoke, and in the cotton wool you see LED blink up. So it was an art more than something to manufacture. It was an art installation made with an Arduino board with blinking LEDs. And I think that is what a makerspace should do. I mean, we also do those kind of things for workshops. But it was not something what I was looking for. I was not really looking for tinkering around. I was looking to get kind of educated in an affordable way and to put a product in the market. So I was looking for real engineers who had manufacturing experience. So even Chai Ho didn't really qualify for what I was looking for. And then we said, okay, let's try to see if we can set up something ourselves. And then we said, okay, where should that be? And then we said, well, that has to be in Huaqiangbei. I mean, that is the play garden for everybody who wants to build something. That is the biggest electronics market in the world with I think 6.5 million square meter of electronic shops. So we said that should be the place. And the thing was, we didn't really have money, so we didn't really want to rent a big space and contract ourselves for 5 years or something. So we said, well, why don't we start in an existing co-work space? If we can find a co-work space that wants to be a makerspace and where we can be the partner who builds the laboratories and manages the labs, then maybe there's a synergy. And then we found 3 spaces in Huaqiangbei, SecMaker Plus, ABI, and Huaqiangmaker. All of 3 of them, they actually had tools and there were people doing stuff. So it was already better. But in the end, we got the best deal in Huaqiangmaker. They really needed us. We really needed them. They have a really beautiful location. And they gave us a good deal. So for a very small amount of money, we were able to start. And then we said, okay, we don't want to do this, the 2 of us, so let's find more people. And we asked the whole community. We had about, we asked a few hundred people. Which this community was already built up by my co-founder. And we invited everybody to come to a meeting if they want to be part of Troublemaker. Then 16 people showed up. And from those 16 people, 4 people were willing to put in a little bit money to give Troublemaker, let's say, 6 months time to prove itself. It was really a small amount of money because we basically only needed to pay for the rent. That was it. I mean, we had 4 co-founders, 1 from Norway, 1 from France, and 2 from Holland. And on May 2011, we started. We said we're going to give it a go, and in July we had our opening party in Troublemaker with 250 people coming to the opening party.
You said 2011?
That is 2016.
16. Okay. Wow. So initially it was just because there's this niche that you discover, right? That Shenzhen doesn't have in terms of makerspace. So all this. So I assume all the co-founders are like-minded engineers. Is that true?
One was a project manager. The Norwegian guy is kind of like a project manager for clients, a consultant, similar like I was. The Dutch partner, he had a software engineering background, but he was not doing project engineering anymore. He was mainly managing companies, startups. The French guy is an industrial designer, graphical designer, industrial designer. And I'm trained as a watchmaker. It's kind of like mechanical engineering, which was something what I did during having my own companies in Holland, and which is much more close to who I am as a person. So watchmaking is something what I still love a lot, but I don't do for myself.
So can you tell me a little bit how, because it's been 4 years, any new things happened to Troublemaker?
Yeah, Troublemaker evolved continuously. We started out with the ideas that we need to have people here, we need to have engineers here, we need engineers ourselves for our work. So we invited engineers on a base of, you can be here, you don't have to pay a membership, and we can get you work. And you work as a freelancer, you run your own company, and when you get work, share a little bit of your revenue with us so we can pay the rent. And eventually that worked. That's how we started, and that developed into an ecosystem of services. So now we don't ask people to share part of the revenue anymore. We only work on membership based model. So everybody pays a membership, or they volunteer. I mean, if they just don't have the money, it doesn't mean they're not welcome, but then they volunteer. And yeah, we grow into a soft landing ecosystem with a lot of different services and a high quality network of partners and manufacturers, where overseas product developers have a safe place to land and get educated and get referrals, basically get anything they need to fulfill their goals, to fulfill their dreams.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, because I've seen on the website that I feel like a lot of companies already, or a lot of people already start noticing Troublemaker, right?
We have thousands of people per year passing through. I don't know the exact number, but it's quite a lot. Not at the moment, of course. At the moment, actually, 0 people are passing through.
Yeah, of course.
But from those thousands, a few hundred eventually become active somehow. So it could be a customer for one of our, we call them gurus. So the gurus are the engineers or the designers. Or it could be that they sign up as a member. And some of those are referred to us by consulates from different countries or ambassadors. So even from pretty high sources, we get startups referred to us, which we then have the pleasure of guiding them in the Shenzhen ecosystem.
Can you name a few products that, like maybe that Troublemaker help founders create?
That's always a difficult question. So there are certain products in the market, but a lot of times, like we are not an incubator. We're not part of the. We're not a shareholder, and we're not part of the team as such. We are a service provider. We are bound by NDAs from the beginning. And the funny thing is that when those teams or those members are here, they're usually very open about everything, and a lot of people know the product. But technically, it's not like I should just say what everybody was working on, because in that regard, we are kind of like any R&D company working in assignment for a customer, and the customer wants to be the one that does all the marketing. But the kind of products we have done are healthcare products, swimming pool safety, some educational products, personal care products. And it's not a huge amount of products, because even though we have had a lot of people here, the kind of market we have addressed, I think, let me say like this. When we started out, we really focused on makers. Now, makers in China are usually still a little bit with a commercial mindset, because general people here want feel a pressure to succeed. But makers around the world, they are usually people who like to do this for self-development, not always necessarily for a commercial purpose. And even if they are, it's quite often that they don't succeed because they don't have a team or they don't have the means to realize it. So a lot of people come to us to learn and fail. And I think that's fine, because they have to go through the process of what works and what not. Sometimes they think they have a niche, a product for a good niche, and they start developing, they start investing, and while they're working on it, they come to the conclusion that their idea was wrong, that they had a pre-assumption about their idea, that it's going to be great, but there's actually no market. So there are many reasons why the majority of the products will never see the light of day.